For this video, I'm planning to go through setting up a database on the Server Management Studio and setting up a login as well. So first, once you've connected to your server through the SQL Management Studio, you'll want to go into the Management Studio and right click on the Databases folder, and you can either do this through SQL command line or through this method, and click New Database. From here you can name the database, so let's name it just example, and we'll leave the owner as default for now. You can leave the rest of the settings as they are at the moment, unless you want a smaller database, in case you need a smaller one. So now we've got our example database. You're first going to want to go to security, and right click on logins, and create a new login. From here you can name it maybe example login, and you can either do Windows authentication, but that's not very secure, or you can do SQL authentication. With this you can give it its own password, so I'll just call it password for now, as this is just an example. You're then going to want to go to server roles and make sure public is checked, and then go to user mapping and find your example database, or whatever you've named your database. From here you can now choose what permissions you want this to have over the database. So in this case I'm not going to want it to have admin permissions, but let's give it reader and writer permissions, so it can read and write the data to the database. Now we can click OK on that, and we set up our login. Now remember the username and password as well. Now you've got that set up, you can go into a new Visual Studios form. So let's create a new form. And let's just call it example form. And let's go and save this. Somewhere here in a new form, just anywhere for your convenience. Let's save it in here. Okay, and let's make sure it's a Windows form application and click OK. Now if we just let this load up for a second. Okay, and now we have our form here. So first, let's work on just setting up a connection with the database. So we're not going to look at the look of the form at the moment. So you're first going to want to, well, in my case, I'd want to create a new class for this, so you can easily access it and just have them stored in different methods. So let's go up to the example form and right click that and choose add and then a new class. In this case we'll just call it SQL Server. Okay, now you have your new SQL Server class. You're going to want to get this up here. Okay, so you're going to want to first set up a connection with the server itself through C#, because at the moment they're not related. So you're first going to want to have a connection string. Now for this you can either connect via the local host, so that's if it's on your machine, or you can connect from a separate location. In this case we're just going to do the local host connection, and I can go into connecting via maybe an IP later. So let's just give it a let's just do a private string here and just have it as a local string or local con string. So local connection string, and that will be your server local host. So this is the bit that would change dependent on how you're connecting. But then at the moment we're just going to do database master and trusted connection true, because this is the Windows authentication login. If you want to connect via a different method, you can do so. For instance, the security login we've got, you can change this part instead for SQL Express and then the port number, which if you've got it on dynamic port, then you'll want to change that to a static port. If it's a static port though, you can just enter your static port number. Then you'll want the rest of this, and then here you can enter a database and password. So if I just add that there and make a private string of database, and let's give that so then you find your database name. So let's go to the manager, and the database name was example, so we can go example, and then you're going to want to make another private string and have that as the ID or username, and set that to the username of the login that you made a minute ago. So full login, and the password, which in this case was just password. Of course, make something a bit more secure. From here, you're going to want to put all that in the class. Whoops. Okay. Now let's make a public void, sorry, and just have a established connection, or connect. Makes it a bit easier. And from here, you're going to want to possibly, on the outside, I would say, of the actual method, make a SQL connection. So first you're going to need to use the using, and you're going to do the system.data.sql client. So once you've got this, these will now work. This sets up you can name these whatever you want, but I've got con for connection and com for command. So first we're going to want to establish a connection with this connect function. Now if you're doing it via IP, you can connect with the IP. Oh, also that's got to be a single slash there. If you're also I'm going to want to put this local connection string in here. There we go. So if you want to connect via IP, I'll go into that a little later, but for now we're just going to do a local host connection. So let's first make a new connection. So if we do con, or whatever your connection is here, in this case, and then you'll do dot, and then, sorry, you'll want to define the connection. So you want to do a new connection, and you're going to want to do that. There we go. You want the connection string and the credentials. However, you can put this into a single string as the connection string. So if I now put this local connection string in here, there we go. So that will actually connect with the connection string now. And let's just put that inside a try catch statement. And leave that at that, I'd say. So from here, let's leave it as that. From here, you can now, wait, let's grab it so it actually brings up a message box actually. So message box.show, and then just do failed connection. or connecting. So now you can know if you've connected or not, and that will actually establish a connection in the first place. So I'd say we can leave that there for now, and then in the next bit I'm going to go over inserting into the database itself and setting up some tables.